All right, here we are. We are talking about the wake up hour. Hey, Jess, make my headset higher, would you? We're talking about the wake up hour, and I'm so glad today we're going to be having our very special guest. In fact, he's been on the show. I can't how many times he's been on the show, Michael Monk, and he comes from a whole other perspective, a perspective of from light, from dark, from experience. He's probably the most, if you like, in the different psychology sciences, he is what would be known as experimental psychology. He experiments and he gathers data from his experiences, this out of the world experiences. I mean, literally out of the world experiences, and in his own way he collects it and learns it's not like he's writing a dissertation or he keeps track of it on paper, but it's all in his head and his experiences, and then he just wants the next experience and to build on and build on and build on. And what am I talking about? There you go. Thank you. What am I talking about is, near not just near death experience, but like out of body experiences, astral plane traveling, learning what's going on, alternative universes, interdimensional teleportation. We could probably talk about as well. But today is going to be a great show. It's going to be about ESP. You're like, oh, that's so boring. I mean, that's so old school. Yeah, we already know about ESP. ESP, by the way, Jess, I don't know if you knew this or not, but it's been scientifically proven to exist.
Really?
Yeah, they actually they tested it, years ago, where they may not know how it works, but scientifically, people were able to, pick up on stuff that normally you wouldn't with your five senses. So it's valid, experimental, and we're going to talk more, perhaps from a different perspective today with Michael Monk on ESP. But before this goes on, I think I need to mention a few things, as Jesse hands me the piece of paper to talk about. Oh, Michael Linton, yes, I'm so excited. He's starting the new host on our show called Ride the Vibe. He starts tomorrow at 6 p.m. to all our WDJY listeners out there. And he's going to be talking about and sharing with you guests and people in not only in Roswell area here, but around the world eventually, who really understand the creativity of music, of art, of all types of creative ideas and things, and how people can learn to express themselves intentionally with their skill, with their art, with whatever motivates them from inside. And I think that's a creative part of our reality, and it's a great addition to, I think, Jesse, to the network, because we talk often cerebrally about different things and different experiences. We get into the paranormal, we get into the creating of our intentions and of our reality. We get into quantum physics, we get into all to these type of on the edge type of information. But just to bring it back home to perhaps maybe one of the reasons why we're here to first place, maybe, is to enjoy life, to enjoy creating life, to play in the light, play in the darkness, to learn to create and to have these experiences. And who does that better than artists? They may not have any money, but they sure know how to have fun when they're not obsessed with whatever they're obsessed with. So it's gonna be a great show. When we get into the ESP as well, I think I want to mention one other thing too is. His is at 6 p.m. on Fridays. Dr. Nelson shows on 5 p.m. on Tuesdays, too, which is getting into integrative medicine. But let's get to the ESP here. And Michael, when you get online here, and we'll take a look at what's going on. And I don't even want to even tell. I mean, he's like an avatar master. But Michael, tell a little bit about yourself. And just since you haven't been on, I guess, in a while, but tell a little about what's your background? How do people already know you? What is your talent here?
Okay, well, hello everybody. My name is Michael Monk, and I'm a self-taught energy master, would be the best way to describe it, teacher and healer. I run an online energy mastery academy where people learn how to expand their senses, travel out of the body, and perform energy feats and abilities, like real metaphysical stuff that can be done with energy here in this reality. I do all of my teaching through my website at avatarenergymaster.com. Avatar, just like the Indian word. I believe that we are all an incarnation of the divine, and that's what an avatar is, so I chose that name for the Energy Mastery Academy. If you guys want to check that out, it's avatarenergymaster.com, and I have lots of demonstrations and fun things that you can check out on the website. But Basically, my story in a nutshell was I was just an average guy, no interest in religion or spirituality or anything. And in the year 2000, I was just watching a movie when out of nowhere I began to receive telepathic communications from a very powerful presence that basically identified itself as God. And that definition of what God is has massively evolved from what I thought it was back then. But after this communication, I mean, I'm just trying to keep this in a nutshell because the whole
Yeah,
show could
sure,
be about
sure,
my past. But
sure.
after the communication, I sought answers within religion, and what I was taught by this telepathic presence was different than what I was shown in the religions. And yet I knew there was something to it because I was experiencing prayer miracles. I was experiencing reality-bending miracles by praying in the way that I knew how at the time, which was praying to God in the name of Jesus. I was raised religion, even though I didn't stick with it. So I experienced all of these reality-bending miracles and not knowing which direction to go with it or where to go next. And until around 2008, I discovered energy by having spontaneous experiences of my clairvoyance, my ability to see energy just opening up wide, and a whole new world being revealed to me that's right here on top of this world, which is what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah,
But basically, my extrasensory perception opened up.
Opened up. Now, do you ever look back just on a kind of reflection level? Wow, here you are today, and you basically live in this world, this extrasensory perceptual world right now, and you have been for many years, experimenting, experiencing, from stuff that you hear in this, you hear in the movies, right, or you see on science fiction. You ever look back to when before you had this awakening, how your life was, or do you ever hardly ever look back in the past?
I look back from time to time. It's really good for me because I had a really hard life growing up. I didn't have much passion for physical life on Earth. Just nothing here excited me. Nothing stirred me. I suffered from extreme depression. I was even an addict at one point. And all of that, turned around as I began to have these experiences and realizing that I have a great purpose here, and beyond that there's far more to this reality than we ever dreamed possible.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good for me to look back because my life is supercharged, full of purpose now. I've healed in all of the depression and things that I used to suffer from, and just every day is a new level of fulfillment and helping others, serving others, and assisting people in obtaining a higher type of conscious existence within this physical paradigm.
It's almost like when you have this type of awakening or leveling up or however you want to call it, there's like a shedding of your old skin, a shedding of attachment perhaps to who you thought your identity was. And do you feel like you become more identified with something else, or do you feel like you become just unidentified with anything?
Both, actually. We sort of try to encompass both ends of the spectrum as we adhere to mastery. I'm always seeking a balance. So no one philosophy is going to encompass the direction that a soul should grow. So you should grow in your ability to detach, in detachment, dissociation. You should also grow in your ability to be heavily attached, heavily connected, dialed in, emotionally attached to the reality that you're in there. And same thing with your personality. So I very much have a personality. It's a bit as you open up and grow in these with these expanded senses, you realize that you have more existences than just this life of yours, that there is a such thing as past lives. There's even such a thing as future lives. We can get into that later, but the concept of past lives should be familiar to most people.
Yeah.
So who you are as a person expands vastly as you connect to your soul, which contains the summary of all of the life experience you have had in this reality and other realities in a singular personality. Now, who you are in this life is vastly influenced by that higher level personality. But once you begin to open up your senses and tune into the core of your being, your soul, your infinite being, then your personality gets enriched in massive ways and all at once. And for the flip side of that, so too does your ability to just detach from it all and just dwell within your I am.
Yeah, and that's fascinating because it's almost like a natural progression, would you say, as you are expanding your extrasensual perception, that you'd go in this flow or in this route, or do you think it's just you took a different route, or you think this is more of a natural awakening with anybody who starts expanding their consciousness?
Yeah, I would say that there's a general path that happens when extrasensory perception opens up, because it does for a lot of people. But then, like the biggest thing to consider here is mental stability, because that is really the only danger in the opening of all of this, is you have to be able to hold yourself together. And as these experiences begin happening, if you have no paradigm to understand it by, there's a good chance you can temporarily lose your mind or go insane. And my definition of that is you basically just lose your ability to interact with other people that aren't having the same experience as you. So but yeah, that's an unfortunate thing that happens to a lot of people, but some people are able to hold it together, like without a paradigm to understand it by, and assemble one themselves, which is basically what I did. I had some assistance from material that I had read before, like Seth material, the channeling by Jane Roberts, that's pretty well known. That helped me a lot, but I was also experiencing things, even outside of that paradigm. But that's a big part of what I offer is I do have a very solid, very logical, grounded, and practical method of understanding all of these experiences, and I can assist people that want to open this up safely.
No, listen, it's brilliant because I've seen you in action so many times, not only on the show and on a personal level, and it is your rationality to the approach, and it's almost like an indifference. It's like you're a scientist gathering information to share, and then you process it, and then you regurgitate it, and you bring it something that on a level where people can fully understand something this abstract. And you're talking about abstract information that we're going to be talking about today, especially when you get into extrasensory ESP. ESP, I guess when people hear that word, the first thing they think about is, predicting the future, or tapping into, reading minds, things like that. That's probably the narrower definition of it. How would you define the overall definition of ESP, what it means to you?
Sure. Well, okay, our consciousness is currently, before you open up your extrasensory perception, you're fused within the electrical system of the body. If you can at least assume for a second that we have a spirit, that we have a soul. That's common knowledge fact to me and you and many others. But for those who aren't there, just assume for a moment that you are a spirit that's inside of your body, and you're actually housed in the electrical system of the body, which is preformed electrical pathways that literally force your consciousness to experience solely through the five senses: sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. These all have a fixed vibrational range of data input. So like eyesight is in the rainbow spectrum. If the consciousness in the body receives a vibration that's in the rainbow spectrum, the brain says, well, this is something we can see, and it decodes the vibration and interprets it as the world of form that we experience. Likewise, if a vibration is from 20 to 20,000 hertz, the brain says, hey, this is something we can hear, and interprets that vibration as sound. Well, taste, touch, and smell, these all have a fixed vibrational range per the paradigm that's held within the electrical system of the body. Extrasensory perception is simply to expand those five senses beyond the limited range that the body has or forces upon the consciousness, because it's actually the consciousness that's decoding the vibrations and turning it into sensory experience. The brain and the body is simply a tool that's been training our consciousness to be able to interpret these vibrations this way. We take it for granted as spirits here in the physical, but it is a massive feat of consciousness that we have obtained, that we have been taught by our blessing of the physical body, to be able to take waveform energy, which is all there truly is, and experience it this way, in this beautiful world of form that we tend to take for granted. So that's the first part of
Well,
extrasensory perception, is
okay,
expanding the range of the five senses.
okay, so hold that thought. Just as I said, isn't it great how he just breaks it down, explains
Yeah.
it? So almost it's inaccurate when you say extrasensory perception. Is it? It's more so expansive sensory perception, right?
It's funny that you said, yeah, that's good flow, Tim, because I was about to talk about the sixth sense, and
Yeah.
there isn't one. There is no sixth sense, and if you really take the time to examine it, a sixth sense is not even conceivable to a five sensory consciousness, because you would be thinking about it either in terms of sight, sound, taste, touch, or smell. So there's nobody that can claim to have a sixth sense within a five sense paradigm. But what the sixth sense has been mistaken for is the extended range of the five, as well as what I call sensory overlap. And sensory overlap is huge and amazing. I'd like to explain that briefly, and then I'll know you'll have something to say on that. So
jump ahead.
In the center of our mind, we have in our brain, we have a cortex called the thalamus, and its job is to decode vibrations and send them to the correct place within the brain for interpretation. So if a rainbow spectrum light comes in through the eyes, before it goes to the sense of sight back here at the back of the brain, it first passes through the thalamus, and the thalamus says, oh, that's rainbow spectrum, let's send that vibration to the sense of sight, and then it gets interpreted visually. And same thing, 20 to 20,000 hertz, they say, oh, the thalamus says that's sound, that goes to the hearing interpretation. Well, by studying energy, by gaining an electromagnetic presence within your body, by gaining an energetic or a spiritual presence, you can gain a conscious awareness within your thalamus cortex and direct these vibrations wherever you wish. So you could be looking at a tree that's like 50 feet away and feeling its vibrations passing through you, because you have this electromagnetic presence within your body, and then you can just connect that vibration to your sense of smell. Next thing you know, you're smelling that tree as though your nose is pressed right up into it, even though it's like 50 feet away. Or you can overlap the eyesight with the sense of touch, and next thing you know, you have a type of electromagnetic sense of touch with the tree. So there's massive ways that these senses can be overlapped. I think something like 100. I forget the exact math on it, but I believe that this is where people have mistakenly imagined that there's a sixth sense is through.
So, yeah, no, so you're saying there's kind of like a synergenic experience when multiple senses are being stimulated at the same time, that kind of creates an illusion of an extra sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep, but it's interpreted one of the five ways, or any mixture thereof.
Well, it's amazing how, it's like I'm hearing this for the first time in my life. I'm like, I can't believe scientists, hello, history books, hello, biology, quantum physics, it's amazing how, think about that, because that's like a fundamental misinterpretation of this sixth sense, right? And it's been misinterpreted and misunderstood for probably decades, if not, maybe more than that, because it's really, honestly, comes down to, it's an expansion of our already range of our five senses. Is how, when we say we are multisensory rather than five sensory, even that's not as accurate, is it? Because multisensory is saying that there's another sense outside of our five senses.
Right, and it's not even conceivable. I mean, if that doesn't sit to all the listeners, then after the show, I would like for you to sit for 10 minutes in silence and try to conceive of a sixth sense and what that would be. And it's impossible.
Okay, so when people may throw at you, okay, well, our consciousness is a sixth sense. How would you respond to that?
Okay, how does this consciousness experience
Life
when it has an experience?
Okay, well, here in this three-dimensional world, it would have to use the five senses. But how does the consciousness experience, perhaps in dream state, or in astral plane, or in an out-of-body experience? Is there an additional sense there, or is it just same five senses?
No, and here's where we get really technical, and I will concede that it is possible that another sense exists, but by the very nature of when you're in an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream, the information is being recorded in your brain. That's why you're having the experience. Every single person has an out-of-body experience every single night, because it's not like your consciousness just ceases to exist except for some vague electrical activity in the brain. Everybody actually leaves their body. That's what happens when you get tired and you fall asleep, is the law of attraction pulls your presence to other areas of reality that you exist. However, for you to have any conscious memory here in your human self of that experience means that the experience is being filtered through your brain, which is a five-sense organism. So yes, it's possible that there is another sense outside of this paradigm, but it is impossible for a five-sense paradigm creature to be able to even know of its existence.
Or
So you have to have a sense in order to know of its existence. You can't describe sight to a blind person.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I mean, what you're saying is, in this three-dimensional world, the five senses are the king, right? And now you could expand it or limit it. But have you ever heard of situations where people's five senses are even are smaller or limited more so than the average
sure.
human sense?
Absolutely, yeah.
Like
There's a lot of people that are handicapped in that way. That can
right. Blind people, right, and or whatever the case may
or
be.
people that are partially deaf. Or,
yeah, and so when you have that, you're saying that sensitive overload or sensitive overlap would come in play, and why some people could hear 10 times more because they can't
absolutely.
see. Right.
Yeah, I get people in my energy course all the time with disabilities, like maybe they're not able to see so well, so I teach them to see with their consciousness instead of with their physical eyeballs, or maybe they're nearly completely deaf, but I can teach them to hear through their eyes.
Right.
You can just, it's all vibration. It's all your consciousness decoding vibration. Minus the five senses, everybody would see this reality for what it really is, and it's just waveform energy everywhere being interpreted.
So it being interpreted by our five senses, but now there's different types of energies. Let's say, for example, or at least two types, to my understanding. Tell me if you agree or disagree. Are you familiar with scalar energy? Like energy,
not by definition, but probably by experience.
Yeah, I'm sure you. This guy lives in scalar energy.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Well, we had some scientists come on and researchers and share what scalar energy is, and it's basically electromagnetic energy. There's two types of energy: scalar energy, which is the ultimate, just energy, God energy, if you want to call it, spiritual energy. Then you have electromagnetic energy, where you could measure it by from point A to point B, where scalar energy is just point A. It's everywhere, and things just kind of communicate through scalar energy. They call it chi, could be considered scalar energy, things like that. And would you consider, like, say, for example, chi? Are you familiar with chi?
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I know where you're going with this. And what we call energy here in the physical world is actually resistance to spiritual energy. Like, we don't consider something to be energy until it has a measurable force. In the scalar energy, you're right, I dwell there as a constant. There is no resistance to vibration. It free flows.
There's no entropy. There's no entropy to scalar energy. Right. It never degrades like electromagnetic does.
Yeah, it's infinite.
It's infinite, yeah.
Yep, infinite and stable, and yep, totally. But where it impacts into the physical reality, where it becomes measurable, is where it encounters resistance and flows through things. Like even when lightning strikes from the sky, the air is providing resistance between the free flow of this energy that wants to go from above to below, but the air is in between resisting it, so it causes that measurable spike of energy. So everything that science typically labels as energy within this reality is actually spiritual energy meeting resistance.
Right. Well, so resistance creates entropy, I assume, right?
Yeah, I guess you could say I'm not very scientific minded.
Yeah, right. Well, like I
Yeah.
said, he's the experimental guy.
Yeah.
He takes what you say and puts into action, and where it really matters, you know.
Exactly.
So okay, so let's take it to the next level of the ESP here, Michael, and let's take it to the level of we understand now that this is expansion of our five senses, and in our world, you can learn how in our three-dimensional world. I'm saying outside of our dream state, outside of like, you know, meditation or putting yourself in altered states, in a typical beta functioning brain activity world, are you able to expand your five senses either in the alternate state to where it stays expanded in the beta state, or in this three-dimensional world that we live in, that you actually expanded your senses now, and it doesn't shrink until you go back into alternate state of mind?
Yeah, sure. It all depends on how you open this up. I mean, anybody that's ever done a hallucinogenic or something like that in their past has experienced extrasensory perception and knew deep within themselves that what they were experiencing was real in some way. But the problem with that is once it's over, it's done. You haven't made that connection. So if something takes you there by itself, then it's not yours. Like my extrasensory perception first opened up by this spiritual presence that I can safely refer to as God, but it's far more complicated than that. Opened my consciousness and gave me experiences, opened me up and had me see energy and many other things. But once this presence would withdraw itself and leave me back to myself, I was back in the regular three-dimensional world with no access to these things. It was only when I began seeking meditation that I finally opened this door to what God had already shown me by myself, by my own effort, by my own achievement, by my own merits. And once I did that, it was permanently mine. So once you open the door yourself through expansion of consciousness in meditation, it's yours forever. And from there, yes, it's true that it is far easier to have these experiences with lowered brain waves, and that's where I guide students at first, is reducing the amount of consciousness within their brain, because the brain consciousness has associated itself entirely for however many years you've been alive as a physical-based being stuck within the range of the five senses. So at first, to begin to have these experiences, we lower the brain waves through meditation, and it makes it a lot easier to open up. But once you've opened it up so many times, and the ego consciousness, which is what the brain is, your memory of self from this physical life, you could accurately call your ego consciousness, it is limited in that way by its memory of the five senses. So its entire paradigm needs to be cracked until it can begin to experience this extrasensory perception in normal beta waking brainwaves. But that typically happens in a student's practice over the course of 3 to 6 months by meditating, lowering the brainwaves, opening up the beautiful world of energy that's all around. Eventually the ego gets comfortable and says, okay, I accept this as reality, and not only do I feel safe within it finally, but this is the source of my being. So it's the only way that I possibly could feel safe, and it starts to settle into it, and then you can begin to get extrasensory data within beta brainwaves, your normal waking consciousness.
Wow, you know, it's just what I love about this, Jesse, it just seems so now practical that somebody who, you know, always like, wow, you know, this extrasensory or the sixth sense, you know, that's for special people born with this gift. You know, hearing Michael explain it in these terms, it seems like, well, you know, seems very simple. I can start expanding my senses here, because by doing, you know, go to A, B, C, and D, and then boom, I expand my senses. It seems like it's very doable, and I love that's how you explain it, like how you explain that, because a lot of people just think that certain people have the skill set and they'll never have it, and you're saying that anybody could have this by doing certain things. Which when we get back from break, let's actually discuss what are some of the techniques specifically in meditation that we could be doing to expand our extra senses here. Wow, huh? Heavy stuff. We'll be right back with Michael Monk. He's the Avatar Master. I'll tell you what, he is an Avatar Master. We'll be right back. I have to say, Jesse, that's one of my favorite mixes you put together for the ads there.
No, that's actually Wahid.
Really?
Yeah, it
Wow.
sounded pretty cool though.
I was,
yeah,
really?
I was like, hey, that sounds cool. But
yeah, that little echo on there. Jeez. All right, we are back with Michael Monk, Avatar Master. You can reach him at avatarenergymastery.com, right? And listen, he has step-by-step process how you can learn to expand your not only your consciousness but expand your extrasensory perception, so you could tap into your consciousness. And that brings up a good point here. So as you expand your it's almost like the chicken or the egg. Do you have to expand your extrasensory perception to expand your consciousness, or do you have to expand your conscious to expand your extrasensory perception, or which one comes first?
Definitely in chicken and egg territory there. Can't have one without the other.
Is that the scientific term, the chicken and egg?
Yeah. All right, the chicken and egg. But which comes first, or does it have to happen simultaneously? I mean, I don't. Or is it the same thing? It's the same thing. Yeah. It's a derivative of it. Like your conscious is a bigger brand, but
Sure.
extrasensorial is a derivative of it. Or I don't know. You explain it to me.
Well, consciousness experiences through senses. Without senses, there is no experience for consciousness to have. So even though consciousness comes before experience, it's pretty much a moot point without experience itself.
Right.
Yeah, consciousness is king, but experience is where it's at. Without the experience, there's nothing. So yeah, the two go hand in hand, but it is important to remember that consciousness exists even independent from experience.
Well, amazing, because it seems so confusing, especially that, one reason is if you're hearing this for the first time, especially whether you're radio listeners or your followers on the internet with us, you're not taught this in school, at least not the typical school, public school or even private. I don't even know, homeschool maybe is best chance, but you're not taught this information. So if you're hearing it now and you're halfway done with your life here, and you're just realizing, wow, I wonder what kind of life I could have had if I was able to expand my senses. What benefit do you think, if people learn this at a much younger age, that it could enhance their day-to-day life here in this reality that we live in?
Well, I could have a lot to say about that. I truly believe with all of my heart that it is the answer to all of the world's problems, and I do mean that once each individual on the planet has a spiritual connection, that all of our problems will be naturally solved. And I'll explain that as briefly as possible. But we are born within what I call, and many call, separation consciousness. So your consciousness, which is energetic, electromagnetic, free-flowing, locks itself within the electrical system of the body upon incarnation, forces itself to experience through the five senses, and automatically begins an experience of disconnectivity. So you're in your body, you're in a world that you're not a part of, you're separate from, you interact with beings that are not a part of you. Everything's parceled and separated, and it's a survival-based paradigm. So you got to look out for number one. It doesn't take much imagination to know that this is the source for all of the problems that we currently face in the world. Well, once you begin to open up with extrasensory perception, training in consciousness, and energy mastery, you expand beyond the range of the five senses, but also the limitation of the spatial configuration of the nervous system. You learn to project your consciousness beyond the range of your body. It's a very natural side effect of studying energy, and you end up discovering that the world around you is an extension of your being, that it's a part of your soul, that you are one with it, and it's literally a part of you, an inseparable part of you. The other people in the world are an extension of your being as well. We are all interconnected in a glorious webwork of metaphysical energy, and consciousness knows no barriers. So the only true separation between me and you, Tim, is the lines that our consciousness draws. So they're arbitrary. And the physical body draws these lines for us, automatically. But were it not for that, any person would see that we are all one. And once you know that it's all a part of yourself, you learn that the happiness of other people has something to do with your own happiness, because we're all one. That the condition, the state of the world we live in has a direct impact on your own sense of well-being, because you are the world that's around you. Well, so you enter into what I call unity consciousness. Unity consciousness.
Well, you touch on so much information there, because when, the mirroring, people say mirror whatever you don't like in another person is something that you don't like in yourself. whatever you like in another person is something that you recognize within yourself. It explains when you get what you're saying, you're calling it the illusion of separation, that we're really not separated. And how can somebody who, if we are truly separated, how can that person, how can that, what I don't like in that person is something I don't like in myself. How can that exist if I wasn't consciously connected with that person and to know that, right? So this illusion of separation, it makes a lot of sense as we expand our consciousness outside of this, the meat body, right? The body part. We expand this consciousness. You're saying is it's almost moving in a recognition. It's recognizing itself in this process. Or and it's attracting through the similar vibration or the similar frequency because it's all there. And it almost explains scalar energy in a way. But
a little bit.
So as you're expanding your consciousness, there has to be some level of familiarity between that, or it gets easier to expand consciousness because you're expanding consciousness. It's almost like, I guess, does it move more so in an exponential awakening process because of that?
It has to do with shifting the paradigm, and this takes place within the course material that I teach. In the first 3 to 6 months is typically how long it takes for a student to shift paradigm, and that's from your mental association of self as being a physical being to your mental association of self as being a spiritual being. So at first, as you begin to experience the energy and the sensations and everything, it seems like you're separate from it because you have been for so long. So you'll say things like, I'm feeling all of this energy flowing through my body, or I can see all of this energy in the room around me. But what begins to happen is that your consciousness fuses itself with this energy, and instead of viewing it like I'm feeling energy flowing through my body, you see the truth, which is you are flowing through your body because the energy is what you truly are. It's been an illusion all of this time that you are the physical being. And thank God for that, because your body's going to die one day. And if that's what you were, then you would too.
It seems like so many people, I guess, are waking up to this, Michael, that they're caught into thinking, like some people are truly caught into thinking that all it is my body, and that's all reality is. And when I die, and I turn into dust. It seems like that's old school thinking now. I mean, now is there a shift? There has to be a consciousness shift now, because I probably would have believed that more so years ago, but now I can't even imagine even thinking that to be even remotely true. Just not only from my expansion of consciousness or leveling up, as we say, but just from logic. And it seems like there's still, I guess, people out here who believe that. So your best way to reach those people who really don't understand what we're talking about right now would be how?
Well, through that's why I do the demonstrations that you've seen, where I move the wind, I make clouds disappear, I get water to ripple with my energy, I heal people on camera, and other stuff. It's not because I have a big ego and I'm showing off. I mean, I'm moving wind, getting wind to change directions. I mean, really, so what? That's not like a superpower or anything.
Well, some people would think.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man.
No, but no, from your level of expansion of consciousness, and other people at your level or higher or broader would, like, moving wind is not a big deal. I agree. I hear what you're saying, but at the same time, for people who are not there yet, they think that's kind of spooky, right? This guy can move wind. It could change. And listen, I not only seen you, but I had people like Chick, who did the fire walk, where he was able to move clouds, and just before he laid he's like, it's going to rain, man. We can't have the firewalk. Oh, don't worry about it. I change the weather all the time, Like, what? And boy, if he didn't, like, it was all dark, raining, and all of a sudden, nice, open, beautiful sky showed up. We did a firewalk. 20, 30 minutes later, rain came back in again. I mean, like, wow, it could be coincidence, or this guy has something to it, especially if he called it before time, ahead of time, right? So, yeah, I get it. I think you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think
I do the demonstrations, and then I teach people to do the same thing that I do, and then they demonstrate for their friends and family, and it's just spreading like contagion. I have the ability to prove to anybody on the spot that they're not a physical being, that they're a spirit, that they're a soul inside the body. I can do it by charging up my energy and projecting into them and putting so much energy in their body that it becomes apparent to their consciousness, which is one of the things that my students learn. So by the time a student leaves my course, they can prove to anybody at their own discretion that you're a soul and I'm going to show you, and you also have abilities that your energy can do things and I'm going to show you. So it's no longer a debate or like, well, I think I have a soul. I'll find out one day when I die. It's like, no, we're in a time period where you can know right now. And it's critical. Everybody needs to know this. Everybody needs to paradigm shift because humanity's on a collision course with just with death of the planet. You'd have to be blind not to see that the way we are living is not sustainable. We need an entire paradigm shift. And that's what the truth of energy, the reality of soul, of consciousness expansion of what we truly are, that's what this is going to do. It's going to change our thinking in every single area. When we shift from separation consciousness into unity consciousness, it's going to change the way we approach mathematics, technology, science, medicine, art, music. Like, there's not one facet of life that won't completely be changed into a reflection of that unity that we now have instead of the survival separation-based consciousness.
It really is, Michael, the answer to saving this planet or moving this planet to the right heaven, creating heaven on earth. This type of energy work, and it's not even energy work; it's expansion. It's energy work, but it's expansion of your five senses. You're expanding your five senses to realize we're not separate. We're interconnected with everything, and once you have that experience, you're not going to want to litter. You're not going to want to put chemtrails up in the sky. You're not going to want to start a war and hurt another human being because that's you that you're hurting, right? That's part of you that you're hurting. And so when you have that interconnectedness and that expanded conscious interconnectedness, which is probably beyond time and space, I would assume, you want to do whatever you call the right thing. You want to express love. You want to have a moments of just appreciation of having this three-dimensional physical experience, and I get it, and I think that's not only is it admirable in what you're doing, but I also say it's a necessity. It's a necessity. I agree with you because this is really the answer, and I call it a little different of the power of intention, the power within, and you actually have a pragmatic roadmap through your mastery program to actually show people how they can tap into that expansion of their senses. Again, so your avatar energymastery.com program is digital, is internet based, so people could actually learn this through the internet, not have to go where you are.
Yes, we have an online social networking forum, like a bulletin board service. So everybody has their own profile. There's pre-recorded video lessons that you watch, and then you interact with myself, other teachers, and other students from all over the world. We're like an extended family, and we all open these things up in a safe and non-judgmental environment where people that understand are there for you. They're there to provide a logical platform for you to understand your experiences without, without losing your sanity, which can happen if these things open up for you and you don't have that type of support. But when they're opened up in the correct way, it is nothing but an amazing and beautiful experience. Having your sense of touch, for example, fixed in the physical range means that you only feel things where it frictions against the skin. With an expanded sense of touch, you begin to actually feel within energy, so you can expand your sense of touch and come out in the air, and next thing you know, you feel what it's like to be the air around you. You can actually feel the particles within the air. You can feel it fluctuating, flowing, and blowing, and you are moving with it. You can even do that with the sunlight. I mean, how many people know what it feels like to be sunlight? Well, you will if you just apply yourself for a little bit, or to have your presence go down into the earth, into the flowing water, the soil, the rock, and the stone. I mean, you end up seeing that all around us is a celestial miracle, and that is the nature. And when you have the expanded senses, the sensory overlap and the expanded sensories, just being in nature becomes an orgasmic experience. It's beyond words. I could write a whole book on how amazing it is to have expanded senses and to be in nature. You see that everything that God created for us here on earth is just divine perfection. And then you also see that nearly everything that mankind has created is disgusting, like just bad vibrations, out of harmony, not in alignment with the natural world, which is healing.
Yeah.
The natural world is healing for the soul. Any part of it is healing. Being next to a river is healing. Having the sun shine on you is healing. Having the rain fall is healing. It's all healing, but because it's all based on harmonic celestial vibrations, whereas the things that mankind has made in its state of disconnectivity are the opposite of healing.
Right. Wow. No, that's you hit it right there. I mean, it's so easy to understand that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And now, but even still, the universe allows you to create even this, like you said, this lower vibrational stuff, I guess, for the experience of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you do expand your senses, right, as he's talking about, this kind of, and this doesn't even do justice, enhanced sensitivity, or this hypersensitivity of experience, like you said, is can be orgasmic in by just experiencing light. And when people say, like in the Buddhist, be the tree,
Mm-hmm.
when you expand your consciousness to a tree, you are being the tree, aren't you?
Yes. Yep. That's one of the things I teach. Actually, it's funny.
So
you say that. But
so you've been inside a tree, or you're a tree, right? Okay. So tell me about your experience being a tree, Michael.
well, it's something that I take students through in some of the earlier levels. But you basically stand next to a tree, you put your hand on it, and then what I teach is that feelings are the universal language of communication that all consciousness understands, from the most minute particle to the most complex organism. Every consciousness understands feelings, which is emotional and sensory vibrational data, is what we could say that feelings are. So when you have your hand on that tree, that's not a private experience. How that tree bark feels against the skin of your hand is actually you communicating with the tree. That's a communication right there through the universal language of feelings. And it's also a direct gateway for your consciousness to come out of your body and go inside of the tree. And it's also an open invitation for the tree to come out of its body or essence and go within yours. So that communication point becomes like the divine gateway. By understanding that mentally and then putting enough conscious presence in the sensation, how that tree bark feels against the skin of your hand, eventually you start to feel your presence swelling beyond that skin barrier, and it starts to feel like you're melting into that tree. And once you get in like an inch or two and it becomes palpable or noticeable to your consciousness, you can then expand all the way through the tree without limitation. And next thing you know, your consciousness grows up the trunk of the tree, out the branches, down the roots, and you are yourself. You are a human in your body, and you're also the tree as yourself, all of this right at the same time. You feel the sun drenching down from above and raining that holy fire on you. You feel water coming up through your roots and misting through the branches to like balance the heat, and then you feel your human self at the same time. And how do you even describe how amazing that is?
Totally a Spock moment,
Yeah.
with him and that rock creature. So I mean, logically, it makes sense. Crazy enough for me to say that, But so
you said crazier before.
I know, right? Yeah. So when you have that hand, and you I assume it all starts with intention, and once that intention turns into, like you said, there's a trigger point, almost like you ever look at those puzzles or the puzzles or the pictures where there's nothing there, just like this blank thing, and then when you look through it at a different phase, you see all these pictures inside it.
Yeah, like when you squint sometimes. You get to see, like, the whole
I don't know what
thing.
they're called. They're called something, but anyway.
3D paintings?
3D paintings, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's almost like when your intention is to have this expansion of consciousness, and then all of a sudden you have this 3D painting moment where you are conscious. You're aware. Consciousness is aware that now you are a part of this, right? That's when you said things just open up. Just like when the 3D picture, you're like, wow, I didn't see all that in there, And now that's when you say you could have fun of truly using tree as an example. Sense wise, so you're at your five senses. Are you feeling it? Are you smelling it? Are you because I assume you're seeing it, but what are the senses, or is there a combination of all the senses being stimulated at this point when consciousness is, you were now consciously, you are this tree?
Well, once your consciousness expands beyond the electrical system of the body, it's no longer limited by those forced pathways that force you to experience separated five senses. So it's whatever you want. And it just depends on, everybody's got a different orientation of consciousness. Some are more visual, some are more audible, some are more emotional, some are more touch-based. But a person who's very visual, when I take them through this in person, I project my energy through them to make them go inside the tree easier. But a very common thing that happens is they'll go, "Oh my God, I'm above the tree right now, and I'm looking down at us." They'll actually see through the tree. But yeah, you can experience it in whatever way you wish. You can be smelling it. You can have all five. You can be seeing, smelling, hearing, tasting, touching, and feeling with every single particle in the tree and your body at the same time, because there's no limitation. Yeah, well, so it's however you want to slice it.
Yeah, why do we ever want to go back to work after this experience?
Why would we?
Yeah, so we're going to take another break here, Michael, and when we get back, let's talk about the education process of walking through this expansion of consciousness, and how this could be taught through, not only through your avatar ministry or energy mastery program, but how this could be taught by just be still in yourself and allowing yourself some of the basics of grounding yourself with earth, if that's one of the easiest ways to do it on your own. We'll be right back with Michael Monk, talking about consciousness and expansion, and really being whatever you want to be. And really is the bottom line. We'll be right back. I have to say, I like that one too.
Yeah, no, they're all awesome.
I know, right? We just had a host meeting today, because all our hosts, they're in studio, of course, and we're just going over how to enhance the UI radio network. And I have to say, I love every one of those guys and gals.
They're all super cool.
Aren't they not?
Yeah.
I mean, just
special
brilliant.
shout out to Catherine.
Yeah, definitely. There you go. I'll tell you, I just love it. All right, Michael, we left off on, these experiences are phenomenal, and for people who are caught into their limited five sensory experience, and you're saying that they can learn to expand their sensory experience through expansion of consciousness, and intention, I assume, would be the first step, and desire, and then that process. So, so people probably are, at any given time in their 24-hour day, are probably are experiencing on some level expansion of senses, but just not conscious of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Well, talk about how that naturally happens.
Yeah, everybody gets sensory data from expanded ranges, but they're just taught or conditioned to discount the data. Like it happens. Vibrations leak through that are above and below the physical range. An example: have you ever had that ringing tone in your ear?
Yeah,
like you just get like a high pitched ring.
I thought that was the CIA getting in their way with me, but no, it's not. What is that?
It's tons of different things, and it's damn near impossible to pinpoint what it is. But when I go into deep states of theta meditation, I can go into that ringing, and I can place my consciousness inside of it, and what starts out as a high-pitched ringing in my ears becomes the sun shining on me in another reality, or a child having a conversation with me in another reality. So it's dimensional bleed through into the physical reality, or sometimes maybe it's not just random like that. Maybe it's a message from a spirit or a guide or a relative that's passed on, or who knows what. But extra dimensional sounds, when they come in, when they begin to impact on the physical consciousness, will show up as a very high pitched whining like that. Like, I know a lot of people who think they have the medical condition called tinnitus, and actually their multidimensional hearing has just opened up, and thank God they found me instead of going to a doctor.
Drill. Let's cut that out. Well, that's fascinating, because now you're looking at that. You're saying the five senses can't decode it, so you're going to have to expand your consciousness to be able to decode these messages that you're getting. Many people find themselves in insane asylums, and also on heavy medications, because they're not they're not knowing, or they're not educated, or they're not aware that perhaps they're having other dimensional experiences, and they're not understanding how that could phase into another reality, and they consider themselves just crazy, I would assume.
Yep, that's the unfortunate truth. I would have to say, honestly, that 80% or more of all people that are in psychiatric hospitals have expanded their consciousness into higher and lower vibrations of reality than the physical, with no paradigm to understand it by. Like I've already said, I believe this is a critical time period that this has to come forward. So I believe that God, or the source, or however you want to look at it, has been opening people up, not randomly, but in the hopes that more people could hold it together and actually write a paradigm around it. There are some ancient paradigms, like this isn't new knowledge, but these ancient paradigms are secretive. They hold this knowledge secret, and they don't share it, and it's outdated, in my opinion. Anyhow, it takes way too long to learn. So I believe that the collective idea was to open the consciousness up of sampled people in this modern day and age, targeting ones that collective field could hold it all together, keep the mental sanity, and forge it into a paradigm, basically a path that others could then follow. And I've definitely successfully done that. And with what I offer, people can go from ground zero physical-based consciousness to complete multi-dimensional consciousness in this reality and conscious in other realities, able to bend the weather, to move the wind, to heal people, to prove to other people that they're an energetic being, to open up the expanded senses, all of that stuff. And it's critical. It has to happen for the survival of the species on the planet. So I believe, this is where we're at. And once it becomes common knowledge, these, poor people who are labeled as mentally ill can be pointed in the right direction and actually receive real healing.
Wow. Yeah. It talk about, it's like with chemotherapy, it's 97%, not effective, right? And so here we are killing people, poisoning people, where, even in these psychiatric wards, can you imagine somebody like Michael coming in and healing people who would just put that whole psychiatric business out of a job. Well, again, guys, listen, if you're tired of going to work and tired of just, having your same old boring life, I would go to avatarenergymastery.com, get with Michael, learn how to expand your consciousness, and start really living the life that not only that you are meant to live, but that you need to be living, because you doing this, me doing this, all of us doing this, expanding our consciousness, that's how we paradigm shift. That's how we change this world to a better place. That's how we create a heaven on earth. And this is really the direction we got to go into. This is a critical time. So please go to avatarenergymastery.com and start changing. Start changing the world. Be the change you want to be, right? Or you want to see.
Yeah.
You want to see. Michael, once again, thanks for coming in. Loved it. And hang on if you can for a second. We'll catch up off air, okay?
Sure, my pleasure.
All right.
It's an honor to be here today. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Hey. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed the show. We got today is Thursday. Tomorrow we got Susan McDowell in the house at 11.
Yeah.
You're gonna love that too. And we have our premiere, or should I say, our launch show with Michael Linton. Ride the Vibe. Will be at 6 p.m. tomorrow night, and I'm going to be interviewing him on his show. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think you're really gonna like this guy. He's creative. He's definitely a creative. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed it. WDJY guys, take care, and gals, we'll talk to you guys in about 24 hours. Right? We'll see you then. Take care. Bye.